Hello everybody and welcome to Miss Duckworth's Exam Bites. Each of these short tutorials will give you a clear and concise overview of a different exam paper. Today we're going to be looking at English Literature Paper 1 and this is for the CIE IGCSE. So this paper is 1.5 hours. There are only 2 sections. The total is 50 marks and it's closed book, which means that you do not get to take a copy of either of your texts into the exam with you. So you get equal marks for each question, which I advise you to then spend equal amount of time on each question. So 25 marks for section A, which is poetry, and 25 marks for section B, which is prose. So for your poetry, you're given a choice of 2 questions. Just choose one question from the anthology that you've been studying in class. The poem is printed on the exam paper, so you will get to see a copy of the poem. Obviously, it just isn't the poem that you have with your annotations. Now for your prose, choose one question based on the novel or the anthology of stories that you've been studying. You'll have a choice of 2. Now the choice here is between an extract question or a full text question. So the extract will be printed on the paper, but obviously if you choose the full text question, then you won't have access to the novel or the selection of short stories that you've been studying. So this is your poetry section. So what are you tested on? You're tested on your understanding of the poem itself, so you probably at this point will have a very good understanding of that, so let the examiner know that you understand what it's about, what happens, what the themes are, who the speaker is, the perspective, etc. Your understanding of the context, if it's relevant. If it's not relevant, then don't just bolt it on. It has to add meaning to your essay. Your understanding of the meaning or message of the poem, why it's been written, what the poet wants you to understand, what their intentions were when writing it. Your understanding of the different methods used by the writer and their effects. Think about the range of different devices that have been utilised with the poet, why they've been used, what the effect is, how they add meaning, how they support the message, the themes, etc. Your ability to show that you understand and can comment on a range of techniques such as language, structure and form. Your ability to select and use relevant quotations. So these quotations should be able to support your point, what you want to say about the poem, but there should also be enough in the quotation for you to comment on and analyse. Your ability to formulate a personal response. So this is with regards to your essay and how you write it up. So you obviously have to respond to the question, but you also have to make sure that your response is clear, it's coherent, it's well structured, and it's accurate, so it's understandable for the examiner. But you also want to make sure that it's clear how you're structuring your response, and that your points are relevant, that your ideas are relevant, that your analysis is relevant, so everything kind of has to tie in together. So how should you answer this question? So the first thing that you do is read the question and underline the focus. That will help you to understand how you are going to use this poem, how you are going to talk about this poem. So you can see I've included an example here, questions at the bottom. And then just make a quick note of what the poem is about. So try and bring forth everything that you remember about this poem. So what it's about, think about the themes or the issues that are explored, the big ideas, the tone, the message, the intention. So just write down everything that you can remember, and what you'll be left with is a bank of vocabulary, a bank of key words that you can pull upon when you're writing up your essay. So if you, for example, decide that this poem is about child-parent relationships, and then that's maybe something that you can use as either as a point when you write up your essay, or you can use it to develop your analysis of a particular technique. So all of the things that you write down here will be really, really useful as you go through the essay. Once you've done that, then you can read back through the poem and you can highlight quotations that you think are relevant, that you would like to use, that are relevant to the question, but also you've already made some notes here. So you might think, okay, well, I've made a note here about this poem is about parent-child relationships. This quotation really shows that, and it links back into the question. I think I'll use that. Might be a good idea to think about having 3 different coloured highlighters, just so that you can make sure that you've got a mixture of language, structure and form. So you want to show the examiner that you understand the different elements of a poem. So if you just talk about language all the way through, you're not really doing that. And also my advice to you is look out for quotations that can be doubled up. And when I say that, I'm referring to the fact that you may have a quotation that you pick because it's a metaphor, but it's also got a caesura in there, or maybe you can also talk about the enjambment of the line. So try and think about how many things can I talk about within this one quotation. So if you can double up on the techniques that you can see in there, that means that your analysis will be quite developed and detailed. The next thing to do is do a brief plan. So think about the points that you want to make. So you could even write out your point sentence in full just to kind of keep you focused here. And then once you've got your different points, you could number your points. So you've got point 1, point 2, point 3, for example, and then you can go back through the poem and you can number all the quotations, number 1 that you think would go with paragraph 1, and all the quotations number 2 that you think would go with paragraph 2, etc. So it just makes sure that everything is organised and you've got the relevant quotations going with the relevant point. So you should have a brief introduction with regards to your essay, just very, very short, brief overview of the poem, the big ideas, some reference to the question, and just show how you are developing your personal response. Okay, so you've got your brief introduction, you've got your clear points that answer the question, and it's clear what your own response is to this particular question and this poem. So I've just given you a success criteria down here, so it's just a suggestion just to help you with all the different things that you may want to include in your essay that you may forget that you want to try and remember. So obviously we start off with a relevant point here and just work through the including and embedding, introducing your evidence, the quotation, and then all the way down here to poet's intention, effect on the reader. So in terms of the skills that are needed here, understanding, obviously the examiner wants to see that you understand what the poem is about, the speaker, etc. Analysis, so you really want to show that there's a detailed discussion of the methods used by the writer, and again language, structure and form here. Now your own interpretation, now this is a skill that you really do want to show in terms of how you are responding to the poem. So how are you interpreting the poem? How are you interpreting a quotation even? How are you interpreting the meaning of the poem? And then what is your own personal response? So your own ideas or views with regards to the poem and the question. And within that, your personal response should obviously be supported with relevant quotations. Okay, and on to section B, which is the prose section. So a lot of the things that you're being tested on is the same as what you're being tested on for poetry. So all of this is exactly the same in terms of you've got to show that you understand the text, the meaning, the message, what's the writer's intention. Methods are the same. You still want to make sure that you're talking about language, structure and form of the prose text that you've been looking at. The only difference here is that because you've got two different types of question, then how you answer them is going to be slightly different. As you can see over here, all the skills are the same, just adapted your understanding here because this is now prose or poem. So what's the text about? Is the setting particularly important, either in the extract or the text as a whole? Think about the action that happens, the characters, the climax, the tension, for example, the context, characters, relationships between characters. Again, the big ideas are expressed in this prose text, and then the themes. So I've given you the question up here. So you've got a choice of the extract question. So it will say read this extract and then answer the question that follows it. Obviously I've just removed the extract just for space. Then you've got the question here, in what ways does Austen make this moment in the novel so entertaining? Or you've got a choice of your full novel, a full text question, which you must then make sure that you're talking about the whole text, so you've got to pick your evidence from multiple different moments in there. So how to answer the extract question. So first of all, you want to read the question, deconstruct it, highlight the keywords, make sure you understand it. What do the keywords mean? What is your focus for when you look through the extract? You can write these at the top of your extract because it helps you as you're going through. Then you read the extract. So as you first see the extract, you should immediately recognise it because obviously you will have read the text at this point. So again, just make notes. Where is it from? What's happening? Who is involved? Whereabouts is it? Why is it significant? So why is this particular moment significant in the novel or the body of work that you are looking at? What is the mood? What are the themes? This particular section, what is the writer trying to show you and why? And again, just make some notes. Think about the big ideas as well, so brainstorm some key ideas, keywords that you could use with regards to the whole novel, but also specifically to do with that extract. What do you see in that particular extract? And then you go through the extract and you highlight anything relevant to the question and your initial ideas or your initial notes that you've already got. So as you're going through and you're highlighting, you may also make some notes on there. So think about the examples that you're highlighting. You know, what could you say about them? What do they show? Are there any patterns that you can comment on? So, you know, is there a language pattern throughout? Is there a semantic field that you can comment on? Is there a structural pattern? So think about what's kind of coming out of this as you're reading the extract. So what are you noticing as you go through? And just think about maybe linking quotes together, because all of this will help you with the structure of your answer. So you tie your quotations together to back up one point. And then you make a plan. When you make your plan, just eliminate any of the things that you've highlighted if you think that they're not relevant. So with your plan, the same as with poetry, think about the key points that you want to make for each of your paragraphs or each of your sections in your essay. And again, even just write them out as a full sentence. And once you've got your point sentence, then think, okay, which quotations will I use to reinforce this? Which quotations are relevant? Which quotations can I really analyse to do with this point? And that's where you eliminate the choices. You think, oh, well, I've highlighted maybe 15 quotations here, but I don't need all of them. I'm just going to now go through and pick the best ones, the relevant ones that go with my points. In terms of the full text, so obviously you do not have a copy of the full text, and with the extract here you can use direct quotations. This is slightly different. So read the question again, deconstruct it, think about the key words, what are you being asked to look at, what's your focus, and then do a brainstorm. So just spend some time just throwing all of your ideas on the paper in regards to this question. What are the ideas that just come into your head first of all? And then once you've got all of these on a piece of paper, then you can pick the best ideas, or you can pick the ones that you think, oh, actually that's not really relevant right now, or this is a very strong one, or oh, I like this point, I don't know what I would say though, I can't think of any examples, so I can't choose it. So give yourself some time to look at your brainstorm and then select the best ideas that you have within there, and that's when you start to do your plan. Again, you can write up your point sentences if that keeps you focused. So choose your best ideas, write them up, and then think about your evidence. Now, your evidence can be paraphrased if you don't remember direct quotations. So you may remember several direct quotations. There may be things that kind of pop out, some interesting ones that you remember, some ones that you maybe discussed a lot in lesson. But if you don't worry, you will remember kind of the gist of what's happening, so you are able to paraphrase. So what you really want to think about is your examples. You know, where in the novel are you going for this particular example to back up this particular point? What's happening at this moment? So if you can't remember any quotations, then by all means do paraphrase. Again, your essay should have a brief introduction, so it kind of gives an overview of how you're going to answer the question. Also gives an overview of maybe what's significant about the extract, if that's the question you're doing, or maybe what's significant about the novel in terms of the focus in the full novel question. So thank you very much for taking part in this lesson. I really hope it has been helpful in giving you a quick overview of this paper. If you would like a more detailed tutorial in terms of how to answer the poetry and prose question, I have several tutorials that go through in detail how to approach the question, how to plan, and also how to answer, and a model is also included in that. In addition, you may also wish to download the student guide, so it's accompanying this tutorial, so it's everything that I've gone through today but in a student-friendly version. You can download that from my website in the student zone. So thank you very much. Goodbye.